after all these years you'd like to meet, to go over everything. They say the time's supposed to heal ya, but I ain't done much healing. Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming about who we used to be when we were younger and free. I've forgotten how it felt before the world fell at our feet. There's such a difference between us and a million miles. Hello, how are you? It's so typical of me to talk about myself. I'm sorry. I hope that you're well. Did you ever make it out of that town where nothing ever happened? It's no secret that the both of us are running out of time. So hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call you, never
It went on to have the largest opening week sales in 3 years. That is Hello, probably one of her more iconic songs, going on to do incredibly well in over 36 countries, chopping the charts there at the time of its release. It came from her album 25, and it went on to win Song of the Year as well as Record of the Year. And I think around about the time of 25's release, that is when Adele and Beyonce were going head for head to break the record of seeing who is the most acclaimed recipient of music awards, particularly the Grammy Award. Beyonce still holds that record, though, only by a slight split of the hair. Good afternoon to you, and a very beautiful afternoon it is in Johannesburg. I'm presuming that it is the same countrywide, wherever you are listening to us from today. We've got lots of show coming up your way today. On the back of that horrifying incident that circulated on social media from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. We are going to be talking around the state of gender-based violence in our institutions of higher learning, and perhaps some of the interventions that are needed within these spaces if we are all to concede that they are a reflection of greater society. Then obviously there is a need for institutions and communities that surround them to be a bit more proactive in some of the interventions that we see being put in place there. It is also Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we're going to be taking a look at the world of PR. That's coming up later on in the show. On the other side of this, we are approaching the end of the year. It is mid-November, meaning that a lot of you are probably going to be going up under the year-end review, the year-end performance review. What does this all mean? And is it still pertinent in this day and age? We'll indulge that conversation on the other side of 2 o'clock. 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on if you would like to weigh in on our conversations today, or 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a voice note or message, feel free to do so. Alternatively, you can find us on X at Bridget Masinga, The Full Circle.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Let's get straight into it. By the way, before we kick off the show, I don't know if you were listening to the Talking Point with Kathy earlier on today. She had a brilliant conversation towards the end of the show, a very important conversation around substance abuse, particularly amongst young children. And it's a conversation that we know touches most households in South Africa, and even on the agenda today amongst a whole host of substances that young ones in the family, young children, teenagers are finding themselves abusing. Was also a conversation around codeine. There's very many colloquial terms. I know if you follow rap culture, they call it syrup, and it's a codeine mixed syrup concoction of sorts. And it would be a prudent conversation for you to perhaps double back on our podcast and listen to, just to get some awareness and conscientize yourself around the things that kids are dealing with in their social environments and social dynamics. And I know that she had guests that deal particularly with substance abuse amongst young and teenage children. So if you need some guidance and maybe some help, someone to talk to, there was some information that was shared there. It will be available on our podcast if it's not already loaded. I'm sure it will be loaded by the end of the day. Right now, though, we are talking all things gender-based violence, particularly in our institutions of higher learning. You've probably over the weekend saw the incident involving a 26-year-old woman who is in a critical condition in hospital right now in Cape Town following a stabbing at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology at an outside campus residency. From what I understand, the woman was in a relationship with her her assailant. Prevailing circumstances has been relayed by some students and some observers in the campus is that they could have been in some kind of romantic relationship, and upon the woman wanting to break up with him, he then retaliated, cornered her, was beating her in the parking lot, ultimately stabbing her multiple times. It is grueling to just watch, and just heartbreaking to talk about. He is in custody of the local police station right now and waiting to appear in court. And research has shown that in every higher learning institution, students experience some form of violence or another. And from time to time on this show, we'll catch up with institutions. Just last week, we were talking to the University of Cape Town around this. And we thought, let's bring this conversation back on the table again. We've got Fina Korisani joining us, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Soul City and gender-based violence activist. And we've got Asive Lanjwa, who is a spokesperson of the South African Union of Students. Thank you so much for joining us. Fina, let's start with you perhaps. It's a grueling tale to recount, this incident that happened over the weekend, but it's also something that's not happening in isolation in our country. It's sadly and unfortunately the norm.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bridget. I think it's a rude reminder of the scourge of gender-based violence in our country. And oftentimes, we forget that we still have this scourge, because when it's quiet and we don't hear of incidences being reported, not that they are not happening, but that they are not being reported, because had it not been for social media, we wouldn't have known of this incident that took place. So we tend to forget that we have a pandemic in the country called gender-based violence and femicide, right? And the actions that we take are often reactionary. We are a country that reacts more than we prevent. And that's why we find ourselves all the time, at the back foot of this scourge, because we wait for an incident, then we all now are in an uproar. We want answers, we want something to be done, but we should be preventing, because these incidences shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Asive, let's jump you in here as the spokesperson of the South African Union of Students. A lot of the conversations we've had, guests will say, as much as we all concede that campus is a microcosm of society, there's also some other interesting dynamics that are at play in campus that magnify any kind of mental, psychological issues that students might be dealing with. Asive?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yes, I was saying absolutely, obviously, you are correct. And moving from the premise that our institutions are in fact microcosms of society, but you are correct that maybe the pressures and the specific dynamics that one would encounter in institutions of higher learning could seek maybe to heighten some of the social ills that could also be found outside institutions of higher learning, also because of the concentration of a particular age group in most cases, and I suppose, for instance, if you take cyberbullying and all of those things, they would be much more concentrated, and also obviously access to social media, which I agree with the colleague, it has assisted us to detect some of these cases, but also on the other hand, it has been an instrument of great oppression, if you like, and bullying. So if you are speaking in the context of mental health, particularly at institutions of higher learning, and unfortunately we have not been able yet to legislate and see how do we create a level of legislation such that people are not Bullying has always been there in prior social media, for instance, but obviously it has been heightened through social media. So that would be on as far as mental health, as you said. But as it pertains to gender-based violence, also once again, it is what is happening in institutions of higher learning is a direct reflection of the societal ills. We appreciate that some of the causes to gender-based violence, for instance, is the economic relations between, in most cases, men and women. That has been one of the things that we have seen based on our studies that has led to GBV. The second one has been the cultural experience, the cultural backgrounds and the upbringing, particularly of men, and how they are taught or not taught to recognize women in a particular way. We see it a lot in institutions of higher learning. In fact, it's not just there, but across the whole country, the objectifying of women. So these are also some of the things that have led to gender-based violence, as far as what we would see as causes to gender-based violence. So yes, I think that would be that, Bridget. In fact, and last point on that, we have actually seen, I think it was the 22 police reported that of all gender-based violence cases in South Africa, 10% were actually concentrated within institutions of higher learning. Now, that is very frightening, because institutions of higher learning actually only account for 1.6 million South Africans, which is about 2.5% of the entire population. So when you think that of all the GBV cases in South Africa, 10% is concentrated within 2% of the population, that tells you just how rife it is at institutions of higher learning.
Shoot, 10%. That is a staggering number to grapple with, Fina. 10% of GBV cases concentrated within institutions of higher learning. How do we even begin to approach this situation, to approach this pandemic at a campus level?
Yeah, and it's said that those statistics we get every quarter, from our Minister of Police when she issues the quarterly crime stats. So we do know what the data tells us. We do know where the hotspots are. What we are failing then to do is to use that data to put into place interventions that respond to what the data tells us. So the question we need to ask is then, what's the point of collecting this data? Is it just to keep telling us how many, as my colleague was saying, 10%, right, which is happening within the 2% of the population? And again, we still don't have interventions within those institutions of higher learning that are meant to prevent. What is the training that is offered to the security guards who are on campus? What is their action training when they hear of cases that are happening? What is their response time in incidences where these things are reported? What is the education and the awareness that is being created in terms of targeting certain behaviors within individuals in campuses? Because we know Pillar 2 of the NSP speaks a lot about how through behavior change we can actually start to intervene and course correct. But what is the investment that is being made in targeting behavior change so that we, avert all the issues that were being raised around how this is an extension of what we see happening in society? Because in institutions like universities, churches, we see these things happening, but we are not doing the work of preventing so that we don't again speak like this, especially now that we are entering the 16 days. We are going to see a lot. History has told us that in the 16 days, that's when we see, the scourge of gender-based violence, how rife it is, and how people just act with impunity because this person was in full view of bystanders who were there. It's not like he was hiding himself, because they know, the perpetrators know that the system itself has loopholes, and it's not able to grapple with the issue. Let me give you another statistic so that when we talk about this issue, we see just how big it is. The statistics we know is that almost 40,000 cases are reported quarterly, but only 8% of these cases end up in a positive verdict, where the perpetrator is then arrested and sentenced. So again, we see how the issue is not being dealt with, and our president always makes commitments. In his own, and he speaks about GBV. There's an annual summit that happens where GBV is spoken about. But what is it that we are failing to do?
And that is the question, I guess, on the table this afternoon with my guest, Asive Uguti. What is it that we are failing to do? Because I don't, with the factors that have been alluded to, social, economic, we know the laundry list of factors. Are we able to intersect at the campus level and curb GBV at the campus level without actually broadening our interventions into the communities? Asive?
Hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm saying the fight against GBV, I don't think we can necessarily isolate it, or maybe say, using the different communities or different sectors, but I think there needs to be a more than a commitment, more than a commitment from, particularly from our government, to address it. The reality is that there does not seem to, across sectors, including institutions of higher learning, including government, including the private sector, there is no commitment to dealing with gender-based violence. The president declared it a pandemic. When we declared COVID a pandemic, we pulled all stop and we took practical measures to arm our people with the necessary tools to fight against what we deemed to be a pandemic of COVID. But when you look at what have been the practical tools which we have armed the society with to deal with gender-based violence, there is absolutely none except for the rhetoric. Take institutions of higher learning, for instance, and government. In fact, some of the practical steps we have suggested. One of the things we have said to institutions, for instance, is that they must have dedicated gender-based violence units that will be integrated with the campus and protection services and the local law enforcement authorities in that community to create a three-pronged approach through that unit to deal with GBV. Number one, for the detection and the investigation of GBV, and ultimately also to lead and drive up prosecution rates, which are sitting at around about 7%. Now, all of the universities have not done those things. They have not set up those units. As we said, they must set those units up. What also these units would do, they would also arm all students, female students and male students, and ensure that they have the necessary know-how and the tools, one, to detect these crimes, and also because it's not happening. One of the things which we also did in 2020, we promulgated, or rather set up a policy, a gender-based violence policy for institutions of higher learning, which most institutions still have not adopted. That policy was critical because one of the things it did, it actually practicalized the fight against GBV to create actual tools and mechanisms that we could arm a society with. One, as we've said, to detect, and number two, to even become first responders to GBV. Institutions have not made that move. As far as government is concerned, we said the government must set up a separate arm within the NPA to prosecute GBV specifically and create a separate intelligence unit and crime unit, as we did with corruption.
So, Asive, let's pause it there for a second. Let's pause it there for a second as we take Anne Musa. We'll come back on the other side of this and continue interrogating those practical steps.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Bridget. In the headlines, the National Correctional Services Commissioner Mahoti Tobagale says they have the diphtheria outbreak at Paulsmoor Correctional Facility under control. The state in the Senzumehiwa murder trial says it will be in the interest of justice for the vehicle tracking data to be submitted as evidence. State Prosecutor George Baloy has submitted his heads of arguments in the trial within a trial at the High Court in Pretoria. And the Mandela Royal House has applauded the pro-Palestinian supporters who protested in the Three Anchor Bay in Sea Point yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
Living your best life on the Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle. We are in conversation today with my guests talking around the state of gender-based violence in our institutions of higher learning. And experts say that GBV at higher education institutions is an ongoing issue that urgently needs to be addressed and researched. And of course, over the weekend, yet another horrifying incident being documented. And we were unfortunate to see the video go viral on social media on the one hand, but also on the other hand, had it not been for that kind of evidence, perhaps the young lady who is now in critical care in the hospital would have to be fighting this by herself. As you saw, a 26-year-old woman is in critical care in a Cape Town hospital following the multiple stabbings that she incurred at the hands of someone who is alleged to be her lover upon wanting to break up with him. Both of them, from what I understand, are students at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And even though the incident did happen outside of campus at a private residency, the institution is also launched its own investigations and probe into it. Our lines are open for you to utilize 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line. Asive, I'm sorry, I had to jump in your mouth there to get to Ann Musa and the headline news, but let's continue on the point of the practical steps. You were still making the point around, there's been enough talk shopping around this now. It is time for practical interventions that society needs to be armed with.
Yes, absolutely. So just to recap, I mean, some of the things we say at the level of the state, we believe that there should be a separate unit or arm within the NPA that will deal with prosecuting GBV cases. Why is this the case? Because we are sitting with a mere 7% conviction rate in the entire country. That is honestly deplorable and laughable if we're saying we have declared war against GBV and our conviction rates are at a mere 7%. It tells you that there is no alignment between our justice mechanisms as a country and what we believe to be the fight against GBV. So it tells you, in fact, that anything over and above conviction is mere rhetoric. Now, we are saying to drive up that conviction rate, set up a separate prosecutorial arm within the NPA. Secondly, set up a separate investigation, crimes and investigations unit, as we did, for instance, with the SIU to deal with corruption, white-collar corruption, etc. We must do the same. We must be willing to invest fund and invest resources to dealing with GBV. This will assist us to deal also with the detection and the investigation, because we have seen that it is only 14% of GBV cases, for instance, that are reported that actually end up leading to that lousy 8% of conviction. So we need to set those things up if we are serious. In institutions of higher learning, I've already said, we must set up a system such as GBV units. All institutions and all campuses should be having this. The same way they have race relations, reconciliation, and what units, social rights units, which we're not saying those units should not be there. They should be there. But what we believe to be more pressing and urgent is the gender-based violence scourge, and we should be willing to invest as much resources to it. So we don't say it's simple or it's easy, the fight against GBV, but we think the commitment And our commitment, it's not difficult for us to take steps. It's not difficult for us to be decisive as we did. If we agree that GBV is a pandemic, we should take the same level of aggression which we took to dealing with COVID.
Let's jump on WhatsApp and hear what's on your mind.
Good afternoon. This is so sad that these GBV cases continue, and we have the same approaches, same attitude year in, year out. We just keep going round in circles and expecting a different outcome. And I feel these GBV cases will never, ever go down as long as we don't have a holistic approach to resolving relationship issues between couples, between men and women, girls and boys. We need to teach both individuals to take responsibility in relationships and to try as much as possible to help them to handle relationships in ways that result in better outcomes, even if it means better breakups. Thanks. Anonymous.
Now, Bridget, as regards the lady student being stabbed to death at that particular campus, now the problem always would be the security around that campus, and number two, the enforcement of the police. You see, so that is that. Thank you. Willie here in Kuma.
Willie speaks of the enforcement of security within campuses, Fina, but surely that's not enough.
It will never be enough because that's again reacting, and I think what we also not having a conversation about is about the patriarchal norms that enable this behavior. We still don't get that formula right in terms of changing the gender norms and the patriarchal norms that exist, that people, move around exercising that dominance over a woman because they believe as a man that's what they should be doing. That a woman, once they say yes to you, as a girlfriend, as a partner, it's up to you to decide when they can leave. When they are ready to leave and you are not ready to let go, then you resort to violence. What is it that makes it so easy for men to resort to violence as the first option whenever they don't agree on something? That we need to interrogate. And what enables that? Why is there such a fertile ground for this kind of behavior and not even the fear of what will be done to me if I violate this person in the manner that we see the violation happening? So that thing that we are not talking about, the patriarchal norms, the gender norms, the enablement that happens in our families, in our communities, in our society, will continue having this conversation each and every year.
Then I wonder, Fina, as we wrap it up, I wonder then, is the question, are we asking the right questions of ourselves as society? If we are to have that kind of psychological, emotional conversation, are we leading with the right conversations?
We partially have the right conversations in bits and pieces. And I think once we invest in behavior change, once we invest, I think the investment is what is also missing. Because it's easy to react, right? But to put money and say we are trying to prevent this thing from happening would require that you do intense psychosocial programs with males, with females. You do intense, as the one caller said, counseling within couples, where we help people communicate, conflict resolution, anger management. How do we also dismantle this notion that once you are a woman, you are owned by a man, your body belongs to a man? Where's autonomy? Where's all these things that we know must be done, but we are not doing because they are expensive, they take a lot of time, and we are not interested in doing that hard work. But once something has happened, we want to react, and by that time it's too late. We are counting numbers, and we are now counting stats instead of saying we've prevented so many from happening. We are talking about so many have lost their lives.
And as we close it up, Asive, I mean, as the spokesperson of the South African Union for Students, we did allude earlier in the conversations in as far as legislation and also making mandatory particular services at institutions. And I think I reflect back on conversations we've had on the show during this year with the University of Cape Town, and they seem to be very proactive in some of the systems that they are putting into place on their campus to try and address these issues. Are there not models that can be replicated from campus to campus that could better assist, whether it's support, whether it's resource, whether it's security, in all the facets that are at play?
There definitely are, a level of best practice that could be replicated across. And we have always been of the view that outside a decisive Department of Higher Education, because these are all public institutions, unfortunately, we have always decried the fact that these institutions enjoy is incorrect, this total autonomy. Because, for instance, if government, we said that one of our priorities is to deal with GBV, it should be clear and it should be binding on all public institutions that should become one of their focuses, to deal with GBV. Unfortunately, we see now the fight is isolated and it's based on inspiration and motivation. Whatever inspires whoever's responsible at UCT will do as they see fit, and then nothing will be happening at UniZulu, and then whoever sees and feels inspired in it. So, and also what we also find the problem with that is that HDIs are left behind. If you look at some of the most gruesome cases, for instance, of GBV in the last year or 2 years, a lot of them have happened in HDIs, historically disadvantaged institutions. So this fight has to be coordinated. This is why also when we set up the policy, it was done at the national level with the hope that we would have a decisive enough ministry to be able to ensure that these are implemented. But unfortunately, based on institutional autonomy, universities reserve the right to either participate or not. In fact, now that I think about it, as part of that policy, one of the things we had put to them was that all universities had to set up GBV units. That was not done. One of the things that is in that policy is also a curriculum that would be used to teach and empower students, even on basic things such as consent, etc., which is not happening at institutions. So it has to be coordinated. We can't wait and hope for individual initiative from institutions.
Yeah.
It must be coordinated at a legislative level, such that we can be that is when we will also be able to trace it, Bridget, and track the progress. Because if we have a system or a plan that cuts across the spectrum,
we have to leave it there this afternoon. Yeah. Fina, and of course Asive. I keep wanting to say Asiviwe. Asive, thank you so much for the conversation this afternoon. Let us wrap it there and take a quick break, and then we come back on the other side and catch up with Madeleine Rosher, who is the CEO of PR Works.
November. It even starts with the word no. No reasonably priced holidays, no tickets to that thing your kids want to go to, nowhere without queues, and no flights anywhere worth going to. It's November. So, we are charging no fees for 6 months when you sign up for a 10x retirement product in November. No fees, no drama, just results. Speak to a retirement expert today. 10x your future. 10x is a licensed FSP. T's and C's apply.
The beauty, power, elegance, and speed of horse racing.
The passion at the heart of horse racing diligence.
Where these magnificent creatures and their skilled jockeys compete for glory.
Racing today.
Catch it live on Mondays to Fridays on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
# Horses of Great Character. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. The theme of the lecture is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law in South Africa. Has corruption and malfeasance eroded the moral fabric of the democratic dispensation? The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversation. Our WhatsApps are still open for you on 061 410 4107 if you'd like to share your thoughts and comments on our conversation regarding that very shocking incident that transpired over the weekend. We saw the viral video circulating on social media of the 26-year-old woman who is now in critical care at a Cape Town hospital after being brutally stabbed by a fellow student, a 30-year-old male who is alleged to be her partner. And we wonder what your thoughts are in as far as just really the scourge of GBV, and particularly at campus level. What needs to be done? You heard our guest saying that if we are to use the stats at campus, 10% of the total national GBV cases come out of South African campuses, which only comprise 2% of the concentrated population of the country. So feel free to share your thoughts with us. And we're going to chat to Madeleine later on in the show. For now, though, let's go to WhatsApp. This afternoon.
Hi, Bridget. In as much as we need to coordinate and organize interventions, these kids are a product of a broken society. Because where they're coming from, it's actually where they've consumed all of this poison that now it's spilling over to defenseless girls. So what we need to deal with is the source where all of this is hatched. Because if these kids are learning from their communities that doing such things to women, it's okay because nobody calls it to order. Within our families, the masculinity that is there, the patriarchal mentalities that are there, which are, by the way, maintained to a great degree in these areas. These are the things that we need to break through. We need to break through in these blockages, yes. I think then by then we will be able to see as to what is it that we are dealing with. But now this is the tail end of it. And if we are to deal with an issue at the level of an institution, that is the tail end. That's not the source. We need to go to the source. Thank you very much. It's Zinzile in PE.
Good day, SAFM. My name is Sandy. I will repeat this again. The presence of a father figure is whether an uncle, whether is a guardian, but a father, wherever is the person who is a male, who will guide the boy around, so that he can always be honest with the boy. That when there will be a time where we will be get dumped, you have to accept those things. So in our society, most of our societies, they are single mothers, and then even the uncle are not always there. So the presence of a male figure who will guide the boy is also needed.
Indeed, I concur with that. The presence of a present father is very, very much needed. I wonder if you are in agreement. Feel free to still share your thoughts and perspectives on that. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner.
Tune in for a conversation on diabetes on Afternoon Express. We're joined by physician and endocrinologist Dr. Jocelyn Hellig to unpack the common symptoms and risk factors of this disease. Plus, we look at how to manage diabetes through lifestyle choices with dietitian Kath McGaw. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Open the Absa Cash Invest Tracker account and earn the best rates in the market. More than the top 10 money market funds' average returns. Enjoy unmatched advantages at an interest rate of 8.9% per annum. Plus, if you open your account today, you could win your share of 15 million rand in luxury travel experiences for two. Yes, you heard right. A trip for you and your partner. My bank does that. Open yours today in less than 5 minutes on the banking app at your nearest Absa branch or consult your private banker or call 0860 111 515. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
We are going to Durban when Bafana face Benin in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers. On Saturday, 18 November at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are available for 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children at Ticket Pro. Come dressed in your national colors to support Bafana to win prizes. If you are not in Durban, catch the game on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on sabcsport.com.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Greetings to you all. My name is Lorraine Moyo. I'm 11 years old in grade 6. I drink water 2 times a day, and I don't think it's enough because you need to drink 6 to 8 glasses a day. But also, it is very dangerous to drink a lot of water such that you can go to hospital. The rest of my family drinks 6 to 8 glasses a day. Yes, I do think it is important to drink water during an exam because it allows us to demonstrate our knowledge, as staying hydrated is associated with an increased ability to recall information, to stay focused on the task at hand, to feel alert, and help boost mood. I think you need to tell your children that if you don't drink water, your brain or mind won't focus on your exams. In addition, your body will not function properly and you might get sick. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Tulifele Mweng. I drink 3 to 5 cups of water a day. I think it's very important for us to be hydrated, especially during the exam season, because it helps us demonstrate our knowledge, as staying hydrated is associated with an increased ability to recall information and, to stay focused on the task at hand and to feel alert and boost the mood. Additionally, children must consume enough water and remain hydrated. So what I think we can do to encourage children to drink more water is to place a bottle or siper on their little study desk and pack a bottle of water and sometimes just flavor the water so they can enjoy it and want more.
Hello everyone, I'm Shvika Talib. I drink water quite often every day, but it's not the only liquid that I drink. It's important to stay hydrated all the time, whether you're writing exams or not, because it keeps you awake. It's good for your body, it keeps your energy level stable, and you are benefiting a healthy body from staying hydrated. Some kids actually struggle with staying hydrated, as they can't resist cool drinks and sweet drinks. In order for kids to maintain a habit of drinking more water, their parents or guardians should stop buying cool drinks and get healthy juices and water instead, to motivate their child to drinking more water. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hi, my name is Amin Fletcher. I'm in grade 7 and I'm 12 years old. I drink a lot of water in a day. I drink 1 cup after eating and another one sometime after. So I drink about 6 to 9 cups a day. It is very, very important to stay hydrated, especially during exams, because if you are not hydrated, it will be harder for you to think straight. A way we can encourage kids to drink water is to try and make it fun, so they'll want to do it more. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kawela Mayana. Today, I'll be talking about the importance of drinking water. I drink water 3 to 5 times a day, and it's important to stay hydrated during your exams because it helps you to recall or remember important information and to stay focused during your exam or while writing. Ways to encourage children to drink water is to jazz up the water with ice cubes, fruits, and umbrellas, buy funky straws, and have fun sipping your water, or to buy bottles with visual goals. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day further on. Goodbye and enjoy your day.
Hi, my name is Ntle Shavangu and I am 12 years old. I drink a full bottle of water about 3 times a day. Yes, I do think it's really important that we do stay hydrated during this time of exams because it helps you calm down when you're hydrated so that you don't feel too tight and too stressed. So I think that's what it may help with. I think to encourage kids to drink water is to make the water seem nice in a way because not all water, sometimes water is too flavorless. Like there's a bottle where there's an aroma but it's actually water that makes it seem as if you're drinking flavored water. So I think that may help people want to drink water more often than how they really do drink water. Thank you, bye.
Hello, my name is Patsamachet. I drink water 2 to 3 times a day. Yes, I think it's important to stay hydrated because it keeps the brain healthy and your body strong. Children can be encouraged to drink water if they see other people doing it.
My name is Dembele Madam, 10 years old, I'm in grade 4. I drink water 10 to 20 times a day, even if I don't do exams. Yes, I do think it's important to stay hydrated during exam period so that you can cool off and think more. Children out there, water is important. Without water, the body cannot produce sweat. This can lead to a dangerous increase in body temperature and put pressure on the fluid in the body, including the blood. People who don't drink enough water every day are at a greater risk of problems such as kidney stones, constipation, so please drink water.
Hello friends! Imagine your brain is like a magical sponge, soaking up all the knowledge during exams. Well, water is the enchanting portion that keeps that sponge supercharged. Brain hydration magic. Drinking water is like giving your brain a big refreshing gulp of magic. It helps your brain stay focused and ready to tackle tricky spells or maths problems. Memory portion. Here's the cool part. Water helps you remember things better. It's like a memory portion for your brain. So when you study for exams, sipping on water is like unlocking the secrets of the magical memory palace. Concentration elixir. Ever feel like your brain is doing acrobatics while studying? Water is like a concentration elixir that helps you stay on track. It's the secret potion for sharp focus during exams. Energy splash. Water is the ultimate energy splash. When you're feeling a bit tired or sleepy during those study sessions, taking a sip of water is like a burst of energy that helps you stay alert and ready for magical discoveries. Stress begone spell. Exams can be a bit stressful, right? Water is like a stress begone spell. Staying hydrated helps your body handle stress better, making you feel calm and collected. Magical detox. Think of water as a magical detox portion. It flushes out the sleepy, leaving you feeling fresh and ready for your exam adventures. Cooling charm. When your brain is working hard, it can get a bit warm. Water is like a cooling charm that keeps your brain from overheating. So keep sipping and let the cool magic flow. Remember, staying hydrated is the key to unlocking your brain's full magical potential. So keep that water bottle by your side during exams and let the hydration magic flow through you.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, 2 people shot dead in KwaZulu-Natal and diphtheria outbreak at Paulsmoor under control. Good afternoon. 2 people have been shot dead and another wounded in 2 separate incidents in KwaZulu-Natal. In the first incident, a man in his 50s was found in his vehicle on Tracy Watts Road off the M13 with multiple gunshot wounds. In the second incident, it's alleged that 2 men believed to be police officers got into an altercation that led to a shooting incident. One of the men died at the scene. Advanced Life Support Paramedic spokesperson Gareth Jameson.
Paramedics found a male believed to be in his 30s had sustained a fatal gunshot wounds. Unfortunately, there was nothing more paramedics could do for him and he was declared deceased at the scene. Another male had sustained minor injuries and he was treated on scene by ALS paramedics. However, he remained on scene with SAPS. At this stage, it is alleged that the 2 men, both believed to be police officers, had got into an altercation and then the shooting occurred.
National Correctional Services Commissioner Makgoti Tobagale says they have the diphtheria outbreak at Paulsmoor Correctional Facility under control. Tobagale briefed the media on the situation at the correctional facility based in Cape Town following the outbreak of the contagious disease, which led to the death of 1 inmate last week. No new cases have been recorded in the past 5 days. He says they've implemented a comprehensive set of measures to mitigate the spread of the disease, which includes a vaccine drive.
Key measures that we have conducted as the correctional services here at Paulsmoor includes a vaccination campaign. We initiated this campaign to ensure that all eligible individuals receive a diphtheria vaccine. A total of 342 inmates have been vaccinated, and also we have 36 officials that have also been vaccinated. We also have heightened our hygiene practices. Our facilities are being deep cleaned in an effort to minimize the risk of disease transmission.
This story may offend sensitive listeners, including children. The case of a 34-year-old man who allegedly severely assaulted his 5-year-old daughter has been postponed to the 4th of December in the Senekal Magistrates Court for bail application. The man allegedly assaulted the child and poured glue on her face. The girl was staying with the father following her mother's death in 2020. It's reported that the child initially stayed with a foster parent before the father took her earlier this year. The state in the Senzo murder trial says it will be in the interest of justice for the vehicle tracking data to be submitted as evidence. State prosecutor George Baloy has submitted his heads of arguments in the trial within a trial at the High Court in Pretoria. 5 men are on trial for the murder of Senzo Mehiwa, who was shot dead in October 2014. Accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, alleges he was assaulted and tortured at various locations into signing the confession statement. The investigating officer, Sergeant Vusimusi Mukhane, denies this, and State Prosecutor George Boloy says tracking data will clarify all the routes travelled.
We submit, therefore, that no prejudice will be suffered, as the defense will be allowed to further cross-examine Sergeant Mukhani on the AVL records. Paragraph 6. We therefore request, with the leave of the court, to re-examine the witness, Sergeant Mukhani, on the AVL evidence. And, my lord, we mentioned that the evidence will only be confined to the route travelled by Sergeant Mukhani on the 19th of June, so there was a typing error, should be 19 June 2020, whilst transporting accused number 2 to Moroka Police Station and thereafter to Vosloorus Court.
The Mandela Royal House has applauded the pro-Palestinian supporters who protested in 3 Anchor Bay in Sea Point yesterday. The Royal House of Mandela's chief, Zwelivelile Mandela, who labelled the protest peaceful, said the peaceful protest sent a clear message that Israel's flag should not be allowed to fly anywhere in South Africa. Police fired water cannon and used stun grenades as chaos unfolded on the Sea Point promenade following the confrontation between the pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian supporters. Tensions rose when the pro-Israel group hoisted their flags ahead of a prayer service. 4 people were arrested and the prayer service cancelled. Recapping the top story, 2 people have been shot dead and another wounded in 2 separate incidents in KwaZulu-Natal. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Polokwane. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. there and everywhere. SAFM 104.3 FM in Rustenburg.
It is the full circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, this afternoon. By the way, it's World Orphans Day today, and it's a day for us to reflect and take care of parentless children by raising awareness of their plight, as well as just organizing amongst ourselves. You can always chip in. So many of the MPOs in our country that take care of orphaned children who come to be orphaned through a multitude of circumstance and situation are oftentimes in dire need of some kind of social and financial assistance. And at times it's even as simple as you volunteering your time to just go through and be in conversation, or perhaps lend a skill or two to an organization in order for them to better do what they need to do. It doesn't even often need to be about money. We all are sitting with skills and talents that could be of service to NPOs and organizations in our community, where you just give up a Saturday or two, and maybe this could be something that speaks to your heart. South Africa has quite a large number, a considerable number of orphaned children, and perhaps you could do something at some point or another to better assist their circumstances. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock, and we are in conversation now with Usbusiso Nkosi, who's a certified life coach specializing in career coaching, and Trifina Mopai, who is the managing director of Pahamang Human Capital Consulting, and she's been in the human resource space for well over 2 decades now. We are talking about performance reviews. It's that time of the year. We are heading towards December. Perhaps your December bonus is dependent on how well you performed your duties. Were you a team player? Were you an overachiever? Did you tick all those boxes, etc., etc., etc.? And we're going to navigate this conversation with the assistance of our guests. The world of work has changed drastically over the past few years, and even before the pandemic. And of course, the rise now in remote work has cemented new ways in which we work. And many actually historic business processes and practices have long since fallen to the wayside in favor of things that are more effective and efficient. But one thing a lot of people probably think still remains and wonder, I don't know if you think it's relevant or not relevant, is this whole issue around performance reviews. Let me start perhaps with Trifina. Good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you doing, Bridget?
I'm fantastic, Trifina. I mean, I wonder with, work sort of evolving post-COVID and us embracing new ways and new environments of working, how relevant are performance reviews if I'm spending 3 days of my work week working from home?
It is very relevant. However, it depends on how it is being perceived within each individual organization. Others would use it as a punishment, others would use it as a carrot for performance. So it is based on whether there has been enough communication between the employer and the employee in terms of what is it that we are measuring. Is it objective? Is it based on management bias? Is it based on peer review, or is it based on old cultural beliefs that were set ancient years ago? So it is still relevant, but how is it being used? That's more important.
I see. Smusi, so you are in this conversation. How is it being measured? Trifina says that is perhaps where we should be putting our focus. And as she lists the ways in which these reviews are gauged, I'm thinking, peer review, that could be a difficult one.
So, Bridget, this is a very complicated conversation, right? And then maybe let me plug you with some information. Performance reviews are done for both the employee and the company. And we never speak a lot. It's sort of like an unspoken thing, right? When we're speaking about performance reviews being done for the company. And what I mean by that is when a company hires a resource to operate for 8 hours, they need to sort of check if that resource is really operating for 8 hours, right? So that's why when we talk about the difference between the inputs and the outputs, your output is the result, right? So how you get to your result, it can be entirely up to you. But if you are getting into your end result, yet you are not operating efficiently and you're not operating for 8 hours as you were contracted, that means the company is actually making a loss, right? So there's the capital side of it that we actually never speak about. So the reason why inputs are prescribed most of the time is to get the resource to operate for an entire 8 hours. And then we will look at the outcomes as well. So this is sort of like an unspoken thing that I'm plugging you guys on now.
So, but I mean, Sbusiso, does it matter if I'm operating for 8 hours, if I'm operating for 4, but at an efficacy level that is at 120% and my productivity is at 150%?
Unfortunately, it does, Bridget, because if a company is paying for a resource to operate for 4 hours, for 8 hours, and they're operating for 4 hours, that means the company is making a loss. That's number one. Number two, if your way of reaching your outcomes is expensive, which means you are not being, resourceful, you're not being, you're not cost saving in the manner in which you are reaching your outputs at the end of the day, the company is making a loss. So we sort of like need to balance the two. And I think what happens with a lot of these performance appraisals is that there's an issue when it comes to balancing the two. Some companies would lean more on, I need to focus on my resource and making sure that it operates optimally.
Okay. I mean, listen, I'm not going to argue. I'm from, I believe perhaps there is room in how companies and employers or employees can reevaluate what does efficacy mean, because I can be optimal, have, great product, great input, tick all the boxes for you, great productivity for you, but still be in a position to maximize and optimize on my time. And I think maybe COVID has geared a lot more people in that sense. Trifina?
Yes, that is so true, Bridget. A lot of companies, they mainly look at the amount of time that the bum on the seat is occupy, rather than what is it that you produce within that period. So people work at different speeds, and people have got creative ways of doing things rather than just following the norm. So you find that you've been given the same task, you and me and you, but then I can produce the same results within minimum hours, while you will use the whole 8 hours to produce the same results. So unfortunately, most companies haven't gotten to that level where they say, let's look at the outcome rather than the process. They still want to follow the old time, the old processes of doing things. But yet there are better ways of achieving the same results with the minimum time. I agree with you entirely.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and get into the conversation. Hey, how are you doing for your review this year? If you're listening to our conversation, are you anticipating a negative performance review? Or if you reflect back on the last 11 months of the work here, you kind of feel like you're in a good position to come out of that conversation and that review session with a golden star. Let us know. You know where our WhatsApp line is, or 0614104107.
Ford is turning 100, and there's never been a better time to buy a brand new Ford. We're giving away 100 vouchers worth an amazing 50,000 Rand each, and the sensational grand prize of us paying for one lucky winner's Ford. It's the celebration of the century. Visit a Ford dealer, buy a new Ford, and win. T&Cs apply. We are going to Durban when Bafana face burn in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers. On Saturday, 18 November at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are available for 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children at Ticket Pro. Come dressed in your national colors to support Bafana to win prizes. If you are not in Durban, catch the game on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on sabcsport.com.
What was that sound? Was it a life support machine in an ICU ward? Was it a car reversing for the driver to take another look at a woman he saw at the bar last night? Or was it the birth of a new robot machine about to change the world? This time, you decide. It's your story. The award-winning SAFM playwriting competition is back. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theater of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 22nd of January 2024 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. It's just gone 20 past 2 o'clock. So employee performance reviews, often linked to key performance indicators, have been challenged by quite a few human resource practitioners as an ineffective and stressful way of measuring employees' progress. And you ran us through some of those, Trifina, at the beginning of the show. If you could just run me through some of those categories again, the yardsticks that are used as measure. You said objectives, peer reviews.
Okay, Bridget. What I said is that they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, and they should be relevant and time-bound.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the traditional way of doing things, they would not involve a lot of they wouldn't involve peers as such. It will be the supervisor, and perhaps one has got some bad experience or not so much good relationship with your supervisor, and then they will use that to get to you, like, hey, I'll get her. She's not going to get the bonus this time because she's not nice to me. So if you get peer, because then that is just an individual, therefore it's not always subjective. But if it's peer review, not all of them, they will hate you so much that they will want to give you 1 out of 5. You get somebody who will say, but this person is performing, and they will also have a discussion around that. But if it's just management, each one has their own opinion about you, and they sit there, have a discussion, and they also think by giving a less score, you'll be saving on the money that we should be paying for bonuses, if it is tied to bonuses. So, but if it's peer review, I think my peer would feel, if I score her less, is likely to pay revenge. Therefore, we all want to we've got the same intentions of making some rewards, getting some rewards, but at the same time, we will have to put more effort in order to make sure that we take something home at the end of the year or at the end of our reviews.
Yeah.
But management is looking at bottom line and making profit, because in certain companies, they will say to the HR manager, here is your budget. Go and sort out how you pay your people. But if you save us money, we're going to pay you more. We're going to give you an incentive for saving the money for the company.
I see.
And then in that process, the employees get punished.
I see. So is there a way of perhaps measuring or doing these peer reviews and measuring performance in a way that's a bit more innovative and perhaps a bit more fair ground, with less room for personal dynamics to interfere?
That's complicated, hey, because it's like policies of a country, right? Sometimes there's nothing wrong with the policy or the system, what's wrong is the people within the system. And this is where the waters get really murky now, where somebody is gunning for somebody else and they're using performance appraisals for that, and so forth, right? So one of the things that I always want to see in performance appraisals is the measurement of interpersonal skills, right? Because if my manager has poor interpersonal skills, I have to link that to how they gave somebody else a score on their performance appraisal, on their subordinates, right? So there's something else that I need to measure before we get to that point. Because if somebody is toxic and then it's flying under the radar, when they do their performance appraisal, it's going to become very problematic, right? Because we don't know where those scores are coming from, or we accept those scores as if they were, given on merit. So for me, if you have your finger on the pulse, and this is something that a lot of directors make a mistake on, if you don't have your finger on the pulse, you don't know what infighting is happening. And I'm not saying people should be babysat, right? You are not checking people's interpersonal skills, their interpretation of different situations. You are not aware what the basis of that performance appraisal is going to be at the end of the day. So for me, I think the measurement of interpersonal skills should be directly linked, to what are the chances that Bridget will give somebody a score like this based on their interaction and, how they operate within the company. I think for me, that would be the biggest thing. I wouldn't change the system right now. I know a lot of people are arguing against it. I wouldn't change it. I think the system, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with companies ensuring that their resources are operating optimally and giving them the support. Like, how can I help you to build a productive 8-hour day, right? Instead of saying you are not operating for 8 hours, right? I must ask you, how can I support you so that your day is filled, right? Including learning. We speak about billable hours and non-billable hours. How can I make sure that you are balancing the two and give you a fair assessment on that? There's nothing wrong with that. Companies, employment is a byproduct of companies trying to make money. Everybody who's hired is hired to make money for the company. Let's be direct about it, right?
Let me ask you this quickly before we run out of time.
Yeah.
Are performance appraisals, would you say they are more on the side of creating an incentive, a beautiful reward at the end of a very hard work year? Or do you think some might see them more as of a punishment, where I'm being punished for perhaps falling short of reaching whatever the yardstick objectives were?
So it's not supposed to be like that, but unfortunately, it has become that. Like I said, if a company is leaning more towards managing the resource and making sure we get the best out of it, they will try to push that resource to its limits. So you are being threatened in a way, if I can put it like that, whenever you walk into that performance appraisal. That's a lack of maturity on the board, that's lack of maturity on the management. Whereas companies that are implementing it effectively and correctly, they're trying to get the best out of the resource. Billable hours make us money, non-billable hours learn as much as you can so that you can become a director one day. So it's sort of like balance. But unfortunately, like I said, when you have lack of maturity, interpersonal skills on the powers that be, you're going to have very big problems.
Yeah. Just a final word from you, Trifina, as we wrap it up. Should these appraisals only be linked to increases, bonuses, and promotions, or perhaps should we look at another way of incentivizing year-long productivity?
They shouldn't actually be linked to bonuses and increases or promotion, but they should also be looking at developing the very same resources that we have in the organization, the people that are working for the organization. It should be used to say, let's see where you are. What are your shortfalls? What can we help you to develop? What will you need to move from here to there, to where the company's organizational culture is, to where the company's organizational goals are. Rather than just focusing on the company, it should be a two-way process. What is it that, if you do assessment on me and I'm not performing to the optimal level, what is it that the company is doing to make me reach the level that they would require? Is there training? Is there reskilling? Is there support? Is there, maybe they should change me to another manager that I can gel with, or maybe they should give me something different. So you shouldn't be entirely be linked to bonuses or incentives. They can even do it throughout the year, not necessarily at the end of the year, because some of the things that the people have achieved, they might have been forgotten by the time comes end of the year. In certain companies, they have monthly rewards and recognition for good performance, and that can be coming in the form of a voucher, a spa voucher, or a afternoon off. Those can be some of the things that can motivate employees, rather than this process where people go in already tense after having completed long papers and doing a lot of preparations, and then by the time you arrive there, you are tense, you are stressed, you are anxious, and you know, oh, that's my manager listed me badly, therefore I'm going to get a 0.
Yeah. Trifina, Spusi, thank you so much for the time. That was Spusi Sankosi and Trifina Mopai joining us in conversation. Just gone 2:30, and Musa standing by with your headline news.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Bridget. In the headlines, the worsening situation in Gaza is likely to dominate talks when President Cyril Ramaphosa meets with the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, tomorrow. This will be Ramaphosa's first state visit to the Gulf state. Judge Rata Mukhatling has ruled that the vehicle tracking data be submitted as evidence at the Senzo trial within a trial at the High Court in Pretoria. And 2 people have been shot dead and another wounded in 2 separate incidents in KwaZulu-Natal. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
Living your best life on the Full Circle.
A beautiful Monday to you. I hope that it's going swimmingly, splendidly, wherever you are today. We are still missioning on the Full Circle. It is the final hour of the show. In our last half an hour, in fact, we're going to be catching up with Madeleine Rocher, who is the CEO of PR Works. And this week, it is Global Entrepreneurship Week. And we're going to be looking at a host of different careers. And one such is the public relations industry. And some argue that the PR industry in itself requires PRing, as many people do not understand what PR is. And at times it's even associated with negativity and damage control. But in essence, Madeleine, from what I understand, I almost feel like every sector, every business needs to have some kind of PR or PR consideration. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Bridget. I'm well, thanks. I hope you are too.
I'm great, thank you. I would have it believe, Madeleine, that, every business and every sector at some point or another might either intersect with a PR practitioner or find themselves needing PR. It's not just for the glitz and glam industries, and it's not just for those who need spin doctoring and damage control.
Absolutely, Bridget. I think you just used a couple of swear words there, including spin doctoring. I think, very often the perception is that PR, or PR poppies rather, are the ones responsible for cocktail functions, plunging necklines, they hand out lanyards with name tags and cocktail drinks. That's definitely not PR. Is it part of PR? It's definitely part of the promotional side of the marketing discipline, but public relations is a positive public perception builder that fuels profitability, and it adds to the bottom line of an organization if it's done well.
Positive public relations builder. Is that what you said?
Positive public perception builder.
And, that actually sums it up quite well. Because because I do feel like those who understand and engage PR do understand that you are literally managing the public perception of a brand or entity.
Absolutely, Bridget. And I think what people often forget is that perception is reality. So whatever your experience is with a particular brand, whether it's positive or negative, that is exactly how you perceive that brand, and whether you're going to do business with it or not, or whether you're going to refer a friend or a family member or not. So unless big brands manage those perceptions, the consumer is managing that perception on their behalf.
Absolutely. Here's the other thing I think from a South African context, and we've had this conversation in the corridors, is that I alluded to the fact that, PR touches every sector. I often think to myself, we see the headlines in South Africa, particularly from a political perspective, and you almost want to go, dong, they certainly don't have a PR strategy there, do they?
No, definitely. I think PR just needs to be linked to building brand equity. And it does form part of an integrated marketing and communication strategy. It's not the stepsister to advertising, and it's definitely not second place to marketing at all. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that public relations is the most cost-effective and affordable measure for brands to connect directly with their stakeholders. An advertising campaign can be really, really expensive, whereas public relations has that ability to connect you directly and to help you to share those messages and to help you to connect with those stakeholders at a very, very affordable rate.
Absolutely. And one doesn't want to engage a Madeleine at crisis mode, right? You almost want to have PR be part of your business from the very onset to help you see those blind spots that perhaps you aren't aware of.
For sure, Bridget, but I think what a lot of people only realize is that public relations is critical. It's a strategic management function that adds value to the organization. But they only realize that when they are in crisis mode. And it's often, when they knock on your door to say, please, we need help from a public relations perspective. And that's when you need to start digging a little bit deeper to help the client to find those opportunities. But I also say to clients that while we are there to assist them with their crisis needs, it's not as simple as saying, okay, the fires have been extinguished, so it's back to business or it's back to normal business. You need to make sure that that public perception is correct and that people have that brand affinity or that you still have that brand affinity with your stakeholders. So PR really is an ongoing function. It's making sure that you build those relationships. So public relations is all about building those relationships with the client, with the consumer, with the media, with government, with communities, etc. So it's not just when you're in that crisis position that you go, okay, hang on a second, let's take those people like that old Fatties and Monies ad. Let's take this woman out the closet, dust her off, and put her in the front so they can deal with it from a PR perspective. It's very much driving that image and maintaining that reputation throughout.
Absolutely. Is there a nuanced difference at all, Madeleine, between sort of, public relations and what we've been talking about, the essence of what we've been talking about, and spin doctoring? Because I almost feel as though, when one says you were a spin doctor, most PR practitioners will clutch their pearls and be like, how dare you spit in my face?
Absolutely. I love the idea, and I've almost got this mental image of a few of the PR practitioners that I know holding on to those big pools. But it really is. I can tell you that I saw a stat this morning. There are 2,146 advertising agencies in SA as of September this year, and I can tell you there must be double the amount of PR agencies in the country. So is the entire industry affected by the doings of a few individuals? Absolutely. And this is exactly what you said earlier, that our own sector sometimes needs PR. And that's where I look at the Public Relations Institute of SA, for example, to say you need to make sure, that the entire industry is not tarred and feathered in the same way that one or two practitioners are. And sometimes those practitioners are not even local. There are sometimes international agencies who have, unfortunately, overstepped the mark in South Africa, and the whole industry as a whole gets affected by that. But the reality is, before a client selects a PR agency, they need to do their homework. They need to see how long the company has been around. They need to see what their track record is. They need to see if they have service clients in a similar sector. They need to make sure that when they partner, and this is a key word, when they partner with a public relations agency, that it is a long-term relationship that they can continue. That PR poppy that I was explaining to you earlier, unfortunately, also is a reality. And it also shapes perceptions of what our industry is about. So if you are serious about growing your business and you want a strategic communications function that's going to add value, you need to do your homework and you need to weigh it up to see which one of the thousands of agencies available in South Africa is going to suit your brand best.
And I wonder, has it become more complicated to work in this space in 2023, given everything that we know and we see and the ways that society and social media and brands have all evolved and changed and challenged the way we do things?
Very much so. Bridget, I was saying to a client the other day, when I started at PR Works 22 years ago, public relations was very much about media. It was about being able to write a solid piece or a solid article, having media contacts and getting the client publicity. But public relations now is so much more. Every brand touch point that affects the stakeholder or that relationship at the end of the day is part of PR. So it's not just about making sure that you've got those media contacts. It's about utilizing social media networks. It's about shifting with the times. For instance, during 2020, when there was no face-to-face engagement, webinars flourished. So how do you utilize digital tools available now to make sure that your brand is positioned using the right communication tools to reach a certain audience at the right time with the right message?
And as we wrap it up, Madeline, let's quickly touch on the ethics in the world of public relations. Surely you'll have your own way of making sure that you are doing things in an ethical manner?
Absolutely. I think my rule is quite simple, Bridget. If I get involved with a client and I am 100% convinced that the client's ethics don't clash with my own, that there are no hard questions that I need to shy away from, or if there are questions that the media would potentially pose or a consumer would pose, can I give them an honest, truthful, accurate, consistent answer? And if I tick all of those boxes in my mind and I sit down with my team and it ticks those same boxes, then I have got absolutely no problem to help the client through a crisis scenario. But PR Works will never be a spin doctor. We're never going to sugarcoat the truth to make a client look good at the end of the day. I think my rules are quite simple. It's either black or it's white. There's no gray in between. It either works for me or it doesn't. And we have made some very, very difficult calls over the past 22 years to say, this is a client that I can work with, but unfortunately, this is one that we would rather stay clear of.
Yeah. Madeleine, thank you so much. That was Madeleine Rocha, CEO of PR Works. Let's take a quick one and allow Aldrin Sampear to come through and let us know what's coming up on Beyond the Headline.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with the regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
He's in the building. How are you? Coming back to
Good, how's
cameras
it? I hope that you guys missed me and John didn't take over my place.
No,
yeah?
I mean, how can I not
I think I
miss
listened
you?
to one throw forward and I didn't like the chemistry. I just like the records to show.
I saved the best for you.
Like, how dare they get along so well in my absence?
Please, you are out living your best life, Aldrin Sampear.
No,
hey?
I was working.
And
it
I
was
feel
work.
like you must submit a leave form to this show when you are leaving.
Nah, I probably should consult with you guys. I probably should consult with you guys as well.
It's good to have you back. What's
Thank you
coming
so
up?
much. It's nice being back. So we're going to look at the Senzo Mewa murder trial. We're speaking to SABC News reporter Pearl Makubane, and then also following the press briefing that was held a bit earlier on by the MEC for Economic Development in Gauteng, Lebogang Maile, for Human Settlements rather, in Gauteng, Lebogang Maile, in relation to a close to 30 million rand loan that was given to the Deputy President Paul Mashatile's son-in-law. The investigation has found that, unfortunately, the findings are inconclusive. However, though, there were some things that did happen that were irregular. So the CEO, Lindiwe Kwela, will be joining us for that conversation. This is now the CEO of the Gauteng Partnership Fund, because that's where the money came from. And then also one of the stories that we are chasing this afternoon, you may have heard of SARA, the South African Rainbow Alliance, a number of political parties, opposition parties that have joined it. This is also ahead of the elections next year. Colleen Makubela, who is the Speaker of the City of Joburg's Council, is a COPE member, and she has just been expelled, according to COPE, because she signed the party up to this alliance, and the party is like, no, we're not getting involved
So now
in this.
we've got the Moonshine Pact and the...
And SARA, it's called SARA.
Oh, SARA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the stories that we're chasing.
So
this
now who's in
afternoon as well.
SARA? All the ones that are not on the Moonshot Pact?
Yes.
Okay.
Including COPE in this particular
In this
case.
one.
But COPE is saying that she has no authority to do that. And now she's actually the face of SARA as well. They announced as the face of SARA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting. What a wow. Okay. I just want to see how all of these are going to work come 2024, because...
Do you have an alliance that you like? Or that you prefer?
No, not necessarily so, because I feel as if perhaps there's still some issues that are, unconcluded there between all these alliances. I don't think people are singing from the same hymn book.
I totally agree with you.
So I guess, sure, what are we doing right now?
But something must happen. People must start having conversations ahead of the elections,
I get
it
that.
must start at some point, and maybe later on they'll reach some consensus.
Perhaps let's have an understanding. Let's have some issues that we have common understanding on.
Yeah.
And then when those issues arise in 2024, we can then align ourselves accordingly, whether it's issue by issue, whatever. Now we're all cementing ourselves to these alliances beforehand.
Partnerships. And the way some people have couched it now is that the Moonshot Pact, that includes the likes of the Democratic Alliance as well as Action SA, is that they are the anti-ANC, anti-EFF bloc. And then SARA is perceived by some to be the bloc that's going to come in case the ANC needs a 1% or a 2%. They'll be able to vote with the ANC. So
And
that
at
they
the
meet
end of the day, somehow I think all these blocks are still going to go back to the Red Berets. Because on their own, they are the big block.
Yeah.
Oh, how complicated. Anyway, let's wrap up this little show of ours. Aldrin St. Pierre is coming through on Beyond the Headline. And of course, you can see his pretty face via our streaming on all of our platforms.
Hi, everybody there. Hi, everybody streaming. It's my first time, by the way.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle in the final moments. We are going to be catching up with Dr. Laurette Murray, who is a researcher. And we're talking around this new technology, speech technology, to improve learners' reading skills. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Laurette. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Very well, thanks, and yourself.
I'm fantastic, thank you. Okay, it all seems quite complicated to me, so I'm hoping that you're going to simplify it for me. And this is a speech technology to improve learners' reading skills, and you partnered up with a variety of institutions to develop this one.
Yes, that's correct. So I'm from the Voice Computing Research Group at the CSIR, and our main game is speech technology. So we've developed a suite of synthetic voices that can speak text aloud in any of the South African languages. And so we've now also developed natural language generation capability. So that basically creates almost out of nothing or from prompts from users text that is in our languages. So we focused on Zulu at the beginning of this project. And basically we've put this into an application, a mobile application, Android. And the idea is that it creates an environment within which learners can word for word create sentences as text, but that they can listen to what they are creating. So they create the text and they can listen to it using the synthetic voices. And we've also switched it around. We can create these sentences and have the child listen to any randomly generated sentence using our synthetic voice. And then the game is to recreate the sentence by choosing from words on the screen. And in this way, we've kind of tried to create a transition from them being able to speak the language and listen to it and understand it, and being able to identify the words that make up the written form of that language.
Okay. All right. So I think I vaguely understand what Siyanqoba, I understand the app is all about. And this project is being supported in part by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, yes?
Yes, so the project is certainly funded by them. We've also funded aspects of the technology, has been funded by the South African Centre for Digital Language Resources, SADILAR in short, but the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture are funding the current development of this project and piloting it in schools.
All right. So tell me, and I know you gave us an overview, but give me sort of, so I download the app. I'm just trying to envision it in my mind. You know, if a parent is listening, and obviously we know the literacy rates in South Africa. We also know how children struggle to switch from their mother language to the language of instruction in most schools, which is English. So I download the app and it's targeted at grades?
At the moment, we are testing with grade 3s.
Okay.
So we are still in the research phase. At the moment, there's no downloading of the app outside of our pilot studies, but that's where we're going. That's exactly the use case we want to target. A teacher or a parent who downloads the application, and then they will be confronted with a bunch of lessons that are all structured around themes. And basically, there are different activities within this application that make use of this language generation and speech generation capabilities, where children have the option. So, for instance, the game activity is perhaps the most intuitive one. You open up a screen and you can click on a button that plays some audio in your language initially. So if you are a Zulu-speaking child, you will hear a Zulu sentence, and you will be confronted with Zulu words that appear on the screen, and you have to reconstruct what you've heard by dragging across the correct words into your sentence. And that just practices matching what you hear with what you see. And then you're right. Then children, typically grade 3 learners, by the time they reach grade 4, they have to be literate not only in their mother tongue, the home language, but also in English. Usually that's the case. And so the application is multilingual as well. We introduce English in parallel to Zulu, so that initially perhaps a child listens to an English sentence, and if they understand the English sentence, then they create the sentence in their home language. So they translate, and in that way they need to not only understand the English, and that gets more complicated as they move through the application, but they also need to be able to read for meaning in their home language in order to create the translation. And then finally, in the last stages of the application, we switch that around so that a child listens to a sentence in their home language, and now they have to create in the language that they are trying to learn. They need to create an English sentence that means exactly the same thing. And so we're kind of leveraging off this multilingual environment of ours to also encourage reading for meaning, not just reading, at large.
And have you seen an improved literacy and comprehension levels, at these test stages with the children that are participating in your pilot project?
So we have very preliminary results at the moment, which at most indicate, or at least I should say, at least indicate that the teacher is engaged in the process and very excited about the fact that the children can independently learn while she goes on with some lesson with the other children or so on. So we've had very positive feedback, but we haven't, we're not at the stage where we've got quantitative results that say this is the improvement that you get. But we are working towards that research process, and we have to start somewhere. And so at the moment we are very encouraged by the very positive feedback that we are getting from teachers on the ground who have started to use this application in their classrooms. The fact that it's multimodal, the fact that the children have to listen as well as touch the screen, read, all of these things, I think are especially a feature that teachers appreciate about the application.
Yeah, and I read obviously in the research papers that we have that some of the positives in the project is that it also helps that sort of that transition, that shift from mother tongue to English, which can be very difficult, especially at that intermediate phase in our country, that grade 3 to grade 7.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a real problem that children are expected to learn in a language that they are not literate in. In fact, they're not usually, by the time of grade 3, we know that 8 out of 10 children in South Africa cannot read for meaning in their own language at the most basic level, and definitely not in English. So that transition is crucial for children to be able to not get behind in their schoolwork. We're trying to make it easier because literature has also shown that now teachers in grade 4 onwards have to do double work. They not only have to teach the children content of subjects, but they also need to make up for the literacy lag, and we're trying to address that problem.
And let me ask you this, by way of penetration. Obviously, we're still at the testing stages with the Voice Computing Research Group, still at the testing stages, but the sort of future projection is to get this into the hands of as many students and as many schools as possible. And I wonder, because it is something that is using technology, the considerations around penetration in as far as that is concerned, because people would argue that where there's most problems, it's probably the underserviced communities in South Africa. So by way of having the penetration somewhere down the line, I know I'm jumping the gun here, would that be an easy thing to do?
Well, no, but I think if there's a technology in existence that has been shown to help, that is the kind of thing that funders, international funders and trusts and South African people who would like to invest somewhere can put their money, and they would know that it goes towards something that really works. So we're tackling this problem from what we can contribute. We have the ability to create this technology, and we want to show that it works. And then it will be up to the government and private industry and anybody who cares to tackle this problem, to invest in order to get the technology into the hands of people who really need it.
Thank you so much for the time. That was Dr. Laurette Murray, who is a researcher with the Voice Computing Research Group at Council for the Scientific and Industrial Research. That's the CSIR. It sounds like interesting technology here that is being developed to help students, particularly at those foundation stages, and of course in that intermediate grouping of grade 3 to grade 7, to better transition from mother tongue to languages of instruction and move between the two languages quite seamlessly, in the hopes that it will help improve literacy and reading for understanding. We've seen the numbers come out of this country in as far as that is concerned. Today is Kindness Day, by the way, which was born when a collection of humanitarian groups came together on November 13 in 1997 and made a declaration of kindness. And likewise, on Kindness Day, everyone is encouraged to make a similar declaration, whether you're donating books, food, clothes, or merely telling somebody to have a beautiful day. Aldrin St. Pierre is standing by.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.4 FM in Durban. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money and on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, situation in Gaza to dominate Ramaphosa's visit to the Gulf state, and 2 people shot dead in KwaZulu-Natal. Good afternoon. The worsening situation in Gaza is likely